Jiwon brushed the dust from the ancient console with careful fingers. The mining station had been abandoned for centuries, floating in the empty space near the Orion Nebula like a forgotten tomb. Most archaeologists wouldn't waste their time on such a remote location, but Jiwon had learned to trust her instincts. Something important was hidden here. Found anything yet? Hyunwoo's voice crackled through her helmet speaker. Her research partner sounded bored, which was typical. He never believed in her hunches. Maybe, Jiwon replied. Her scaled fingers, green and delicate, worked across the control panel. The Kalathi were known for their patience, and she had plenty of it. After 3 hours of work, the old system finally hummed to life. Lights flickered across the screen, displaying symbols she had never seen before. Hyunwoo floated over to her station, his large eyes widening. That's not standard galactic script. No, Jiwon whispered. It's much older. The data began to flow across the screen. Images appeared, showing creatures that walked on 2 legs like many species, but different somehow. They had smooth skin in various shades of brown and pink and tan. Their eyes were small but expressive. Hair grew from their heads in different colors and styles. What are those? Hyunwoo asked. Jiwon's heart beat faster. I think these are humans, Hyunwoo laughed. Humans are just stories. Everyone knows that, but Jiwon wasn't laughing. She had spent her entire career studying extinct civilizations, and she knew the difference between myth and reality. These records were real. The technical data was too detailed to be fiction. She downloaded everything the system contained, her hands shaking with excitement. Back on the research vessel Wanderer's Hope, Jiwon spread her findings across the main display. Captain Soman stood with her arms crossed, studying the images with a critical eye. The captain was a Vorlian, tall and strong, with skin that shimmered like oil on water. You're saying humans actually existed? Soman asked. The evidence is clear, Jiwon said. She brought up a star chart. They came from a planet called Earth, in a system near the edge of the Orion Arm. According to these records, they were one of the most adaptable species in the galaxy. Adaptable how? Soman asked. Jiwon pulled up more files. They could survive in almost any environment. Hot deserts, frozen wastelands, deep jungles. They ate almost anything. They healed quickly from injuries. But more than that, they were innovative. When they faced a problem, they found solutions that other species never considered. Hyunwoo brought up another file. It says here they were also violent. They fought wars among themselves for thousands of years before they reached space. Many species had violent histories, Soman said. That doesn't make them special. But look at this, Jiwon said, pointing to a timeline. 2,000 years ago, all records of human activity just stop. No final battles, no plague, no cosmic disaster. They simply vanished from the galaxy. The room fell silent. Everyone knew the old stories. Parents told their children about the humans who had destroyed themselves through war and greed. Teachers used them as examples of what not to become, but no one actually believed humans were real. There's more, Jiwon said quietly. She opened the last file she had found. Before they disappeared, the humans left coordinates. They called it a refuge system. She displayed a string of numbers that meant nothing to most species, but Jiwon had spent weeks decoding them. I know where it is. Soman studied the coordinates. That sector isn't on any modern charts. Exactly, Jiwon said. What if the humans didn't destroy themselves? What if they're hiding? Why would they hide for 2,000 years? Hyunwoo asked. That's what I want to find out. Soman turned to her crew. Prepare the ship. We're going to investigate these coordinates. Captain, one of the crew members said nervously. The Interstellar Council specifically forbids searching for human artifacts. They say it's dangerous. The Council is afraid of ghost stories, Soman said. I'm not. The journey took 3 weeks. The Wanderer's Hope traveled through hyperspace, jumping from one star system to another. Jiwon spent most of her time studying the data she had recovered. The more she learned about humans, the more fascinated she became. Humans had created music that could make people cry. They wrote stories that lasted for generations. They built machines that could think. They had walked on their moon before they even invented faster-than-light travel. They were reckless and brilliant and passionate in ways that other species found difficult to understand. Why do you think they left? Hyunwoo asked one evening. He had finally started to believe that humans were real. I don't know, Jiwon admitted, but I think something scared them. Something so terrible that they had to run. On the 20th day of their journey, The ship's sensors detected something unusual. A signal was coming from deep space, from the exact location of the coordinates G1 had found. "What is that?" Soman asked, staring at the display. The signal was a pattern of numbers repeating over and over. It wasn't in any known language, but there was definitely intelligence behind it. Someone or something was trying to communicate. Ji-won worked on the signal for hours. The pattern was mathematical, using prime numbers and geometric sequences. Finally, she understood. "It's a greeting," she said. "Someone is welcoming us." "Or warning us," Hyunwoo said darkly. They dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the refuge system. The sensors showed nothing unusual at first, just stars and planets like any other system. But as they moved closer, strange readings began to appear. "There's an energy field surrounding the entire system," the ship's engineer reported. "I've never seen anything like it. Can we pass through it?" Someone asked. "I think so, but once we're inside we won't be able to communicate with the rest of the galaxy. The field blocks all long-range signals." Soman looked at Ji-won. "Are you sure about this?" Ji-won thought about all the questions that had haunted her since she was young. Where did humans go?
Why did they leave?
Were they really as special as the old stories claimed? She needed answers. "I'm sure," she said. The ship moved forward, crossing the invisible barrier. Energy crackled across the hull and all the external sensors went dark for a moment. When they came back online, the crew gasped. Ahead of them lay 7 planets orbiting 3 suns. Even from a distance, they could see signs of artificial structures on the 4th planet. Massive cities partially buried in ice stretched across entire continents. "By all the stars," Samin whispered. "It's real. All of it is real." As they approached the 4th planet, the signal grew stronger. The mathematical pattern became more complex, as if whoever was sending it was getting excited. Ji-won felt her scales tingle with anticipation. Somewhere down on that frozen world, the truth about humanity was waiting. And she was about to discover it. The landing shuttle touched down on a flat plain of ice. Through the windows, the crew could see the ruins of an enormous city stretching to the horizon. Buildings rose like broken teeth from the frozen ground, their surfaces covered in strange symbols and designs. "The atmosphere is breathable," Dae-hyun announced from his station. The chief engineer checked his readings 3 times to be sure. "Temperature is cold but manageable with thermal suits. No biological hazards detected." Soman assembled a landing team. Besides herself and Ji-won, she brought Hyunwoo to study any writing they found, Dae-hyun to analyze the technology, and Minji for security. The combat specialist checked her weapons carefully before they left the shuttle. "Stay alert," Minji said as they stepped onto the ice. "We don't know what we'll find here." The city was dead silent. Their boots crunched on the frozen ground, the only sound in the empty streets. The buildings were made of materials that hadn't decayed despite thousands of years of exposure. Ji-won ran her scanner over the nearest structure. "This architecture is designed for beings about 1.7 meters tall," she said. "The doorways, the steps, everything is built to that scale." "Human-sized," Hyunwoo added quietly. They moved deeper into the city. Inside the buildings, they found furniture and equipment, all frozen in time. In what looked like a dwelling space, Ji-won discovered images on the walls. They showed humans engaged in everyday activities, eating together, playing games, embracing each other. The images made her chest ache with a strange sadness. "They had families," she whispered, "just like us." "Over here," Dae-hyun called from another building. "I found something big." The structure he'd entered was massive, with a domed ceiling covered in transparent panels. Inside, rows of crystalline storage units lined the walls. Lights still blinked on some of them, indicating active power. "This is a data archive," Ji-won said, her voice filled with awe. "It's still functioning." Dae-hyun connected his portable terminal to one of the units. Holographic displays sprang to life, filling the room with light and sound. Images of humans appeared, moving and speaking in languages the translation software couldn't understand at first. Then the system adjusted, and words began to make sense. A human appeared in the hologram, looking directly at them as if she could see across time. She spoke with urgency. "To whoever finds this archive, know that humanity did not die. We fled. We had no choice." The hologram showed images of Earth, a beautiful blue and green world. Then it showed darkness spreading across the planet. Not darkness from night, but something else. Something wrong. "We called them the Void Collective," the human continued. They came from beyond our dimension, beings of pure thought and hunger. They didn't want to kill us. They wanted to consume us, to make us part of themselves. Once infected, a person was no longer themselves. They became part of the collective mind. The images showed humans fighting desperately, cities burning, ships exploding in space, entire worlds going dark as the infection spread. We tried everything, the human said. Weapons, shields, running away. Nothing worked. The Void Collective could cross dimensions. There was nowhere to hide. Ji-won felt cold despite her thermal suit. The hologram changed to show human scientists working on a massive device. We built a trap, a pocket dimension, a prison. We lured the Void Collective inside and sealed it shut. But the seal required power, massive amounts of power, and someone had to stay behind to maintain it. The human's face filled the hologram. She looked tired but determined. Most of humanity fled the galaxy, searching for a new home where the Void Collective couldn't follow. But some of us stayed. We volunteered to watch over the seal to make sure it never broke. We became the Watchers. This facility is one of many refugee stations, the human continued. If you're seeing this, it means intelligent life has returned to this part of the galaxy. Please be careful. The seal is strong but not eternal. If it breaks, the Void Collective will return, and next time there may be no one to stop them. The hologram faded. The crew stood in shocked silence. This can't be real, Hyunwoo said. Beings from another dimension? It sounds like fantasy. The evidence is right here, Ji-won said, gesturing to the archive. Why would they lie? Maybe they were insane, Minji suggested. Maybe they destroyed themselves with paranoia. A loud alarm suddenly echoed through the building. Red lights began flashing on every surface. What's happening? Soman demanded. Daehyun checked his terminal. The defense systems just activated. We triggered something. From the walls, panels slid open. Mechanical weapons emerged, their barrels glowing with energy. They tracked the crew's movements with cold precision. Run! Minji shouted. They sprinted for the exit. Energy blasts scorched the air around them, missing by centimeters. Ji-won's heart pounded as she ran, her legs moving faster than she thought possible. Behind them, more weapons activated, and the sound of mechanical footsteps echoed through the building. They burst out into the frozen street. The weapons followed, emerging from the building like a swarm of metal insects. Minji fired back, her shots barely slowing them down. We need to get back to the shuttle, Soman yelled. They ran through the city streets, the weapons pursuing relentlessly. Ji-won's lungs burned. Hyunwoo stumbled and she grabbed his arm to keep him moving. They were going to die here, she realized. They had found the truth about humanity and it was going to kill them. Then something moved in the ruins ahead. A figure stepped out from behind a collapsed building, wearing armor that seemed to absorb light. The armor was sleek and advanced, covered in symbols similar to those in the archive. The figure raised an arm, and a pulse of energy shot out. The pursuing weapons exploded in a shower of sparks. More pulses followed, destroying each weapon with perfect accuracy. In seconds, the threat was eliminated. The figure approached them slowly. Through the helmet's visor, Ji-won could see eyes. Human eyes, warm and brown and very much alive. The figure reached up and removed the helmet. The face beneath was human, with dark hair and skin the color of earth. He was young, perhaps in his 20s, though Ji-won had no idea how human aging worked. He looked at them for a long moment, then spoke. The words were strange at first. Then the translation software kicked in. You shouldn't be here, he said in a language that made Ji-won's translator struggle. This place is forbidden. You're human, Ji-won breathed. You're actually human, the young man nodded slowly. My name is Taeyang. I am one of the Watchers. He gestured to the city around them. And you have entered our sanctuary without permission. Now we need to decide what to do with you. More armored figures appeared from the ruins surrounding the crew. They moved with practiced precision, weapons ready but not aimed. Please, Ji-won said. We're not here to cause harm. We just want to understand. What happened to humanity? Why did you hide? Taeyang studied her carefully. Those are dangerous questions with dangerous answers. He looked at his companions, then back at the crew. But perhaps it's time you learned the truth. Follow me. Our leader will want to speak with you. He turned and began walking deeper into the city. Ji-won looked at Soman, who nodded. They had come this far. There was no turning back now. As they followed Taeyang through the frozen streets, Ji-won noticed more details. The ruins weren't completely abandoned. Here and there, she saw signs of maintenance, areas where ice had been cleared away, buildings that showed recent repairs. The Watchers had been living here all along, hiding in plain sight among the dead city. Taiyang led them to a building that looked more intact than the others. He pressed his hand against a panel near the entrance and a door slid open silently. Warm air rushed out, carrying scents that Jiwan's translator identified as food and machine oil and something else she couldn't name. "Welcome," Taiyang said, "to the last human settlement in the galaxy." The elevator descended for what felt like forever. Jiwan watched the depth meter climb higher and higher as they dropped into the planet's crust. Beside her, Taiyang stood calmly, his armor now retracted to show a simple dark uniform beneath. "How deep does this go?" Taehyun asked nervously. "Deep enough to survive almost anything," Taeyang replied. "The surface city was just a shell. Our real home is below." The elevator doors opened onto a sight that made everyone gasp. A massive underground facility stretched before them, alive with light and activity. Humans moved through wide corridors, working at stations, talking in small groups, living their lives. Children ran past laughing at some game only they understood. "There are hundreds of them," Hyunwoo whispered. 2,347, Taeyang said. "The last survivors of the Watcher program." He led them through the facility. Everywhere Jiwon looked, she saw wonders. Gardens grew under artificial suns. Laboratories hummed with equipment far more advanced than anything the Interstellar Council possessed. Living quarters were carved from the rock itself, each one a small home filled with personal touches and family memories. They arrived at a large chamber where an elderly woman waited. She sat in a chair that seemed to grow from the floor itself. Her white hair pulled back from a face marked by years of wisdom and worry. Her eyes, dark and sharp, studied each visitor carefully. "My name is Yunha," the woman said. Her voice was strong despite her age. "I lead the Watchers. Taeyang tells me you came searching for answers about humanity. We found an old data cache," Jiwon explained. "It led us here." Yunha nodded slowly. "The beacons. We left them scattered across the galaxy, hoping that one day someone would be curious enough to follow them. We needed to know if the galaxy had recovered after we left." "Why did you hide?" Someone asked. "If you survived, why not rejoin galactic civilization?" "Because we made a promise," Yuna said. She gestured and a holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed a swirling mass of darkness contained within walls of brilliant light. "This is the dimensional prison. Inside it, the Void Collective remains trapped. We swore to guard it forever, no matter the cost." "For 2,000 years?" Minji asked in disbelief. "We developed technology to help us," Yuna explained. "Cryosleep lets us rest for decades at a time. Medical advances extended our natural lifespans, and when necessary, we used cloning to preserve our genetic diversity. Each generation has kept the watch just as their parents did before them." Another human entered the chamber, younger than Yunha but older than Taeyang. She wore a scientist's coat covered in symbols and equations. "I'm Isul," she said without preamble. "I study the dimensional seals. And I have bad news." She brought up new displays showing the prison walls. Cracks were visible in the light, thin but spreading like fractures in glass. "The seals are failing," Isul said flatly. "Something has been weakening them for the past 50 years. At the current rate, they'll break completely within 6 months." The room fell silent. Even the Watchers looked shocked. "How is this possible?" Yuna demanded. "The seals were designed to last millions of years." "I've been analyzing the damage pattern," Isul said. "The weakening corresponds exactly to the activation of the Interstellar Council's new quantum communication network. The network uses dimensional frequencies that resonate with the prison walls. Every message sent through it causes microscopic damage. Over time, that damage has accumulated." Jiwan felt her scales go cold. "The Council has been accidentally breaking the seal?" "They don't even know it exists," Isul said. "Why would they? Humanity is supposed to be extinct. The Void Collective is supposed to be a myth. We have to warn them," Hyunwoo said urgently. "They need to shut down the network immediately." "It's not that simple," Taeyang said. "The network connects the entire galaxy. Trillions of beings depend on it for communication, trade, and emergency services. The Council won't shut it down just because a group of supposedly extinct humans tell them to." "Then what do we do?" Solman asked. Yuna stood slowly, her age showing in the careful way she moved. "We do what we should have done years ago. We reveal ourselves to the galaxy and ask for their help." "Help with what?" Minji asked. "If the seals break, what happens?" Isul brought up more images, Simulations showed the Void Collective spreading like a plague, infecting world after world. They'll do what they did before. Convert every intelligent being they encounter into extensions of their collective consciousness. The infected will spread the infection further. Within a year, most of the galaxy will be consumed. Can they be stopped? Ji-won asked. The original humans found a way, Yunha said. But it required sacrifice. It required heroes willing to face an enemy that could consume their very souls. An alarm suddenly blared through the facility. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Isol's face went pale as she checked her displays. Seal breach in Sector 7, she announced. Multiple anomalies detected. Show me, Yuna commanded. The display changed to show a monitoring station on the edge of the system. The station's crew were visible through security cameras, going about their normal duties. Then one by one they stopped moving. They turned to face the same direction, their expressions becoming blank and identical. When they moved again, they moved as one, like puppets controlled by a single hand. It's starting, Taeyang said grimly. The Void Collective is breaking through. The infected crew began working on the station's systems. Their fingers flew across controls with inhuman speed and coordination. What are they doing? Soman asked. They're trying to expand the breach, Isol said. If they succeed, more of the collective will pour through. Can we stop them? Minji asked, her hand moving to her weapon. We have ships, Taeyang said. We can reach the station in 3 hours. But destroying the station won't solve the problem, Yunha said. The breach exists. More will come through eventually. We need to tell the galaxy what's coming. We need them to prepare. She turned to Soman. Captain, will you take our message to the Interstellar Council? Soman looked at her crew, then back at Yunha. They won't believe us without proof. They'll think it's a trick or a hoax. I'll go with you, Taeyang said. I'll stand before the council myself. I'll show them that humanity is real and that the threat is real. I'll go too, Yuna said. Leader, you're needed here, Isol protested. I'm needed wherever I can do the most good, Yunha replied. The Watchers have survived 2,000 years without me. They can manage a few more weeks. She looked at Ji-won. You wanted to know the truth about humanity. Now you know. We're not myths or legends. We're people who made a terrible choice to save others. We're people who kept our promise even when it cost us everything. And now we're asking you to help us keep that promise one more time. Ji-won didn't hesitate. We'll help however we can. Taeyang gathered equipment while Yunha gave final instructions to her people. Within an hour, they were ready to leave. 3 Watchers would accompany the crew back to Council Space. Taeyang, Yunha, and a pilot named Jaemin, who had more combat experience than anyone else in the facility. As they boarded the shuttle, Isul pulled Ji-won aside. There's something you should know, she said quietly. The breach at the monitoring station. That's not the only one. What do you mean? I've detected 3 other weak points in the seal, Isul said. Small breaches barely noticeable. But they're growing. The Void Collective isn't just breaking out in one place. It's breaking out everywhere. How long do we have? If we're lucky? 4 months. If we're not lucky? Isol's expression was grim. Weeks. Jawan felt the weight of those words settle on her shoulders. They weren't just racing to warn the galaxy. They were racing against extinction itself. The shuttle lifted off, carrying humans and aliens together toward an uncertain future. Behind them, the Watchers continued their vigil, guarding a prison that was slowly crumbling. Above them, the stars waited, unaware that an ancient evil was stirring in the darkness between dimensions. And somewhere in the depths of that darkness, the Void Collective sensed the weakening barriers and pressed harder against its bonds, hungry for freedom after 2,000 years of imprisonment. The journey back to Council Space felt endless. Taeyang spent most of his time staring out the observation windows, watching stars streak past during hyperspace jumps. Ji-won often found him there, lost in thought. What are you thinking about? She asked one evening. Everything, Taeyang said quietly. My ancestors left Earth believing they would return home someday. Instead, we spent 2,000 years hiding in the dark, watching a galaxy that forgot we ever existed. Now we're going back, but not as returning heroes. We're going back as bearers of bad news. The galaxy needs to know, Ji-won said. Will they listen? Taeyang turned to face her. Your people treat humans as fairy tales. What if they don't believe us even when we're standing right in front of them? Ji-won didn't have a good answer for that. Yunha spent her time learning everything she could about modern galactic civilization. She studied languages, customs, politics, and technology. Hyunwoo helped her, fascinated by this living connection to the past. Your species achieved warp drive in only 50 years, Yuna said, reading through historical records. Impressive. It took humans almost a century. We had the benefit of finding abandoned Vrelin technology, Hyunwoo admitted. We learned from their mistakes. Humanity learned everything the hard way, Yunha said with a sad smile. We had no teachers, no guides. Every discovery came through trial and error and sacrifice. Sometimes I wonder if that's why we were so good at surviving. We were used to struggling. Jamin, the pilot, spent his time with Minji in the ship's training room. The two warriors tested each other's skills, and Minji was consistently surprised by the humans' capabilities. You're faster than you look, she said after Jamin dodged one of her strikes. Humans evolved as hunters, Jamin explained. We're built for endurance and adaptation. We might not be the strongest or fastest species, but we don't give up easily. They arrived at the edge of Council space on the 12th day. Immediately, patrol ships surrounded them, weapons charging. Unknown vessel, identify yourself, a voice demanded over the communications channel. Soman transmitted their identification codes. This is the research vessel Wanderer's Hope, Captain Soman commanding. We have critical information for the Interstellar Council. Stand by for boarding and inspection. The patrol ships escorted them to the nearest station. When the inspection team came aboard and saw the humans, their reaction was immediate and dramatic. Weapons were drawn, alarms were sounded, and within minutes the entire ship was under quarantine. This is ridiculous, Soman protested. They're not dangerous. They're not supposed to exist, the inspection commander said. Until we determine what they are and where they really came from, they remain in custody. Taiyang, Yunha, and Jamin were taken to a detention facility. Through the transparent walls of their cell, they could see dozens of species watching them with a mixture of fear and curiosity. Well, Jamin said dryly, this could have gone better. Meanwhile, news of the humans' appearance spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within hours, every major news outlet was broadcasting the story. The reactions were divided. Some species were amazed, others were skeptical, and a few were openly hostile. Humans were warlike and destructive, one commentator declared. If these beings really are human, they should be contained or expelled from council space. This is clearly a hoax, another expert said. Some elaborate scheme to trick the council. Real humans have been extinct for millennia. But there were also voices of wonder. Imagine what we could learn from them, a scientist said. If they truly are the humans from our histories, they might have knowledge we've lost. Jiwon used every connection she had to arrange a hearing before the council. It took 3 days of arguing, pleading and calling in favors, but finally, Ambassador Vrelkor agreed to see them. The council chamber was enormous, with seats arranged in a circle for representatives of all 12 member species. Vrelkor sat at the highest point, his insectoid body gleaming in the chamber's lights. You claim these beings are human, Vrelkor's voice echoed through the space. Provide proof. Jiwon presented everything. The data cache, the records from the refuge system, genetic scans of the Watchers. Taiyang, Yuna, and Jamin stood before the council, living proof that humanity existed. Genetic manipulation could create these beings, one ambassador argued. This proves nothing. They speak ancient languages, Hyunwoo said. Languages that haven't been used in 2,000 years. How would anyone fake that? Perhaps they found old records and learned them, another ambassador suggested. Yunha stepped forward. You want proof? I'll give you proof. She tapped a device on her wrist and holographic displays filled the chamber. They showed the dimensional prison, the Void Collective, the weakening seals. This is why we stayed hidden. This is the threat we've been guarding against. And thanks to your quantum network, it's breaking free. The chamber erupted in chaos. Ambassadors shouted at each other, demanding explanations or dismissing the information as lies. Silence, Vrelkor commanded. The noise died down. These claims are extraordinary. A threat from another dimension? Beings that consume consciousness? This sounds like primitive superstition. It's not superstition, Taiyang said quietly. His voice carried through the chamber despite its softness. My ancestors fought the Void Collective. They watched it consume entire worlds. They sacrificed everything to trap it. And now it's coming back. Why should we believe you? Vrelkor asked. Yunha's expression hardened. Because we're offering you a chance to prepare. If you ignore this warning and we're right, billions will die. If you listen and we're wrong, you've wasted some time and resources. Which risk are you willing to take? Before Vrelkor could respond, an urgent message came through to the council. A research station near the dimensional barrier had gone silent, then come back online with a disturbing transmission. The message played for everyone to hear. The station crew's voices spoke in perfect unison, emotionless and mechanical. We are the Void Collective. We are eternal. We are coming. Resistance is futile. Join us, become one. Become perfect. Then the transmission cut off. The council chamber fell into shocked silence. That station has 300 crew members, one ambassador said weakly. Had, Minji corrected grimly. Now it has 300 infected carriers. We need to quarantine the station immediately, another ambassador said. Send military ships. It's too late for quarantine, Jimian said. By now the infected have already begun spreading. They'll sabotage nearby installations, infect more people, and expand the breach further. Then what do we do? Frelkor demanded. You listen, Yunha said firmly. You listen to the people who fought this enemy before. You listen to the warnings we've been keeping for 2,000 years. And you pray that together we can find a way to stop it. Another message came through, this time from a mining colony, then a trading hub, then a diplomatic vessel. Each one reported the same thing. Crew members acting strangely, moving in synchronization, speaking with one voice. The infection was spreading exactly as the old records predicted. How do we fight something we can't see? An ambassador asked. How do we defend against an enemy that turns our own people against us? Taeyang pulled up data from ancient human archives. Our ancestors developed protocols, isolation procedures, infection detection, containment strategies. It's not perfect, but it's a start. We need more than a start, Frelkor said. We need a solution. There is one, Yuna said quietly. She brought up schematics for a device the humans had designed long ago. The Crucible Protocol, a weapon that can permanently seal the dimensional rift and trap the Void Collective forever. Then build it, Frelkor said. Immediately. It's not that simple, Yuna explained. The Crucible requires massive power, more power than any single species can provide. It needs the combined output of every advanced civilization in the galaxy working together. And there's another problem, Taeyang added reluctantly. It requires a living consciousness to guide it. Someone has to link their mind directly to the device and use it to close the dimensional breach. The process is fatal. The council chamber fell silent once more. You're asking us to cooperate on an untested weapon, Vrelkor said slowly, that will require someone to sacrifice themselves to operate it. Yes, Yunha said simply. And if we refuse? Then the Void Collective will consume the galaxy, Yunha replied. And this time there will be no humans left to save you. Far away in deep space, ancient beacons began to activate. They had been drifting in the void for 2,000 years, waiting for a signal. Now that signal came and the beacons woke up, sending out a call to the darkness. One by one, ships began appearing at the edge of the galaxy. Human ships, sleek and powerful, emerging from the deep black where they had been hiding for 2 millennia. The bulk of humanity hadn't died or disappeared. They had been waiting, circling the rim of the galaxy, watching for the day when they might be needed again. That day had finally come. The Void Collective spread like wildfire through the galaxy. Within 2 weeks, 17 stations and 12 colony worlds reported infections. The Council tried to contain the outbreaks, but every quarantine failed. The infected were clever, coordinated, and patient. They would wait for opportunities, then strike when defenses were weakest. Some Council members wanted to flee to the outer rim. Others proposed surrendering, hoping to negotiate with the Void Collective. A few brave species committed their fleets to fighting, but conventional weapons were useless against an enemy that couldn't be killed, only converted. Jiwan watched the galaxy tear itself apart from the Council station. News feeds showed panic in the streets, ships fleeing in all directions, governments collapsing as fear took hold. It was chaos. This is how civilizations fall, Hyunwoo said quietly beside her. Not with a bang, but with people giving in to terror. Not yet, Jiwon said. We haven't lost yet. Taeyang was working with Council engineers trying to build the Crucible device. The schematics were complex, requiring technology from multiple species working in harmony. It was slow, frustrating work. The power couplings won't align, a Frelan engineer complained. Our systems aren't compatible with human designs. Make them compatible, Taeyang said tiredly. He hadn't slept in 3 days. Adapt. Improvise. That's what humans do best. Yunha was in the council chamber trying to convince reluctant ambassadors to commit their resources. Every hour we delay, more people are lost, she argued. We need full cooperation now. Easy for you to say, an ambassador shot back. Your people have nothing left to lose. We're risking our entire civilizations on an ancient weapon that might not even work. My people risked everything to save your ancestors, Yunha said coldly. We gave up our home, our freedom, our entire way of life to guard a prison you didn't know existed. And now when we ask for help to finish what we started, you hesitate? What does that say about you? The ambassador had no response. Ambassador Vrelkor finally made a decision. His homeworld had just fallen to the infection. All 7 billion inhabitants converted in a matter of days. The tragedy broke something in him, or perhaps it gave him clarity. I'm committing the full resources of my people to the Crucible Project, he announced to the council. Anyone who refuses to help is a coward and a fool. We fight together, or we fall together. There is no third option. One by one, the other ambassadors agreed. It wasn't courage that convinced them, Jiwon realized. It was fear. They were more afraid of the Void Collective than they were of trusting humans. Across the galaxy, ancient beacons had awakened human ships from their long sleep. Now those ships were arriving at the council station, and the sight of them was breathtaking. Sleek vessels of impossible design, built with technology that made council ships look primitive by comparison. The lead ship docked at the station, and its commander came aboard. His name was Sunho, and he looked like a warrior from ancient legends. Tall and strong, with scars that spoke of old battles and eyes that had seen too much. I am Commander Sunho of the Human Remnant Fleet, he announced to the council. We received the Watcher's signal. The Void Collective has returned? It's breaking free, Yunha confirmed. The seals are failing. Sunho's jaw tightened. Then we do what our ancestors couldn't. We end this permanently. The Crucible Protocol? Yunha asked. Yes, we've refined the design over 2,000 years of research. It will work. But the price is still the same. Someone must guide it, and that person won't survive. A young human woman stepped forward from Sunho's crew. Her name was Curie, and she couldn't have been more than 20 years old. I volunteer, she said clearly. No, Sunho said immediately. You're too young. I'm exactly the right age, Curie replied. I grew up hearing stories about the sacrifice our ancestors made. Now it's my turn to make that choice. Before anyone could argue further, alarms blared throughout the station. The infected had launched a coordinated attack on the primary dimensional breach point. Hundreds of ships, all controlled by the Void Collective, were converging on the weakest point in the seal. If they expand that breach, it's over, Isol said from a communications screen. She was still at the Watcher facility monitoring the seals. The entire collective will pour through at once. How long do we have? Vrelkor asked. Hours. Maybe less. Sunho turned to his crew. Launch the fleet. All ships engage. We need to buy time for the Crucible to be finished. The human fleet deployed, and the galaxy watched in awe as they fought. The ships moved with precision that seemed almost supernatural, their weapons cutting through infected vessels with surgical accuracy. But there were too many enemies, and more kept coming. On the council station, Taeyang and the engineers worked frantically to complete the Crucible. Jiwon helped however she could, running between stations, coordinating efforts, keeping everyone focused despite the chaos. It's done, Taeyang finally announced. The device sat in the center of the engineering bay, a sphere of crystalline material pulsing with barely contained energy. We need to transport it to the breach point. I'll take it, Minji said. My ship is fast enough. You'll need protection, Jamin added. I'll fly escort. Daehyun finished the final connections. The Crucible is ready, but remember, it needs a consciousness to guide it. Without that, it's just an expensive paperweight. I'm going, Taeyang said. So am I, Curie insisted. And me, Jiwon said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. What? You think I came this far just to watch from the sidelines? Yunwoo stepped forward. If Jiwon goes, I go. More voices joined in. Representatives from different species, volunteers who understood what was at stake. Within minutes, dozens of people had volunteered to link their consciousness to the Crucible. Yunha watched with tears in her eyes. "This is what humanity always hoped for," she said softly. "Different species working together, united not by force but by choice." They transported the crucible to Minji's ship and raced toward the breach point. The battle was fierce. Infected ships swarmed like insects trying to stop them. Human vessels created a corridor, sacrificing themselves to let the crucible through. They reached the breach point, a tear in space where reality itself seemed to be bleeding. Through the tear, they could see the Void Collective waiting. Millions of consciousness, all merged into one terrible entity, pressing against the barriers. "Deploy the crucible," Taeyang ordered. The device activated, floating toward the breach. Those who had volunteered gathered around it, placing their hands on its surface. Ji-won felt a strange sensation as her mind connected to the device, then to all the others who had volunteered. Suddenly, she wasn't just herself. She was Taeyang, feeling his determination and his fear. She was Curie, young and brave and terrified. She was Hyunwoo, loyal and intelligent. She was humans and Kalathi and Vorlians and representatives of all 12 council species, their thoughts flowing together like streams joining a river. Together, they reached out with the crucible's power. They could feel the dimensional breach, feel the Void Collective pressing against it. The entity sensed them and pushed back, trying to consume their consciousness. "Don't let it in," Taeyang's thought echoed through their joined minds. "Focus on the seal. Close the breach." It was like trying to push a mountain. The Void Collective was vast and ancient and hungry. It showed them images of what it offered. Perfect unity, the end of loneliness, the end of conflict. "Join us," it whispered. "Become one. Become eternal." "No," Ji-won thought back. "We choose our imperfection. We choose our differences. We choose to remain ourselves." The joined consciousness pushed harder. The crucible's power flowed through them, guided by their combined will. Slowly, impossibly, the breach began to close. The Void Collective screamed in rage and desperation, throwing itself against the barriers with all its strength. "It's working." Isol's voice came from far away. "The seal is reforming, but the strain was immense." Ji-won could feel the others weakening. Some were starting to fade, their consciousness dissolving under the pressure. They needed more strength, more unity. "Don't give up," Yunha's voice joined their chorus. The old woman had connected herself to the crucible, adding her ancient wisdom to their effort. "Remember what we're fighting for. Remember everyone who sacrificed so we could be here." Images flooded through their joined minds. Memories of the original humans who had built the first seal. Memories of watchers who had stood guard for 2,000 years. Memories of every species in the council. All their histories and struggles and triumphs. They were all connected now, truly connected, in a way that went beyond words or touch. They understood each other completely, saw through each other's eyes, felt each other's hearts beating as one. Together, they pushed one final time, the breach sealed with a sound like reality itself sighing in relief. The dimensional wall solidified, stronger than they had ever been before. The Void Collective was trapped again, this time permanently, held back by the combined will of 13 species acting as one. The connection broke, and Ji-won found herself gasping on the floor of Minji's ship. Around her, others were also recovering, disoriented but alive. They had done it. They had actually done it. But the victory came with a price. Several of the volunteers hadn't survived the strain. Their bodies remained, but their consciousness had been consumed by the effort.